live recording of this lesson in front of an amazing science class. All right, so these are the steps for lighting and adjusting a Bunsen burner. So the first thing that we need to mention, because it's the first thing that's always on our mind, is safety. When we're using the Bunsen burner, always, always, always wear goggles, okay? We don't ever lean over the Bunsen burner when we're lighting it. One of the things that can happen is that as you light it, just like if you've ever lit a barbecue, that first initial instance of flame can be kind of a big deal, and you don't want flame in your face, okay? Always, when we're using the Bunsen burner, we want to stand, do not sit. We don't have any stools back at our lab benches, so that's not a problem. And if your hair is long, tie it back. It needs to be tied back. I have hair ties up here, and they're free for anyone that needs them. If you're using the Bunsen burner and your hair is not tied back, it can fall forward into the flame, and then singed hair doesn't look good. And it's also not safe. So aesthetically and safety-wise, it's not a good thing. All right, so here we are. The first thing that we're going to do before we go through the steps is that we're going to label the Bunsen burner diagram. Okay, so you'll notice that there's when we have the perfect Bunsen burner flame, we have it's a blue flame. Okay, and there's two cones in the Bunsen burner flame. There's the outer blue cone and there's the inner blue cone. And at this spot right here, that's kind of indicated with this little gray dot, this right here happens to be the hottest part of the flame. Now you'll notice it's between 1300 and 1750 degrees Celsius. So this is very, very hot. In fact, that's hot enough to melt glass. Yes, question?
For future tests, do we have to memorize that?
No, you don't have to memorize that. That's a good question, though. You do need to know where the hottest part of the blue flame is. Like, where's the hottest part? You need to know, oh, it's just above the inside. Because practically, that's a very important thing to know. So this long middle section is the barrel. That's the barrel of the Bunsen burner. And this valve right here, the one that you can see at this point, this is what we call the air intake valve. And this adjusts the flame temperature. Okay, so if we want a hotter flame, we can adjust it. If we want a cooler flame, we can adjust it. Okay. This is the spout that leaves the Bunsen burner that goes to the main valve that's on the lab bench. Okay, and there'll be a hose that will join this right here to the valves that are on the lab bench. This down here is the burner gas valve. Okay, and this controls, of course, how much gas is going to the Bunsen burner. Okay, this adjusts the flame size. Okay, so let's take a look at the procedure that we're going to use to light this. The first thing that we want to do is close the air intake valve. Okay, so we want that to be closed. And we want to ensure that the burner gas valve is open. Okay, so one is closed, one is open, the air intake's closed, the burner gas valve's open. Once this is done, we now turn on the main gas valve on the lab bench. Okay, so open the main gas valve, and then now we will hear the sound coming out of the Bunsen burner. It's like a hiss, and you can hear the gas escaping. Okay, we don't want to leave it in this state for too long, right? Because if you leave it in this state for too long, then we're just releasing gas into the classroom, and we don't want that. What we would prefer is to light it quickly. So we're going to use a gas lighter to start, right? One of those spark lighters with the flint in it, and that was part of our lab equipment that we learned at the beginning of the semester. So we want to light the burner. You need to use both your hands to produce a good spark, and we're going to practice that before we light it, because it's a little bit of a talent to be able to do it. But it's part of the lab skills that we need to be able to have. We need to be able to work one of these sparkers, okay? At this point, now that you've lit the Bunsen burner, the flame will be yellow-orange. Okay, it'll be a yellow-orange flame. And what we want is to open the air intake until we see a distinct blue double cone flame. So it'll look something like this. Okay. Inside and outside, there'll be two different shades of blue. And when it's properly adjusted, we will hear a quiet roaring sound, okay? And you'll definitely be able to hear it. It's very distinctive. At this point, the last step is to use the burner gas valve, so the one down at the bottom, to adjust the height of the flame until the inner cone is about 3 centimeters in height. So about the size that's on your page. And that should be drawn approximately to scale on your page. So that's how big we're going to have the flame. Okay? So let's just recap for a second, fill these in. To decrease the size of the flame, let in less fuel or gas by closing the burner gas valve. Okay. To increase the temperature of the flame, let in more air. Really, it's oxygen, but why don't we just do that? Let in more air, i.e. oxygen, by opening the air intake valve. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the science behind the orange flame and the blue flame and where it comes from. So this is combustion, and this is kind of like an introduction to when things burn. And we're going to talk about combustion later on in the unit. But what we've got is that we've got natural gas, which is what's coming out of our valves. And when we have an orange flame, okay, so this is called incomplete combustion, we get natural gas and oxygen, which is a gas, but there's not enough oxygen, okay? How much oxygen, what percentage of the air is oxygen? Who knows? Approximately? Nitrogen's about 70%, oxygen's about 20%, okay? And in incomplete combustion, we get 4 products, okay? In any chemical reaction, the starting substances that react are called the reactants, okay? And the new substances that are produced are called the products. So in this case, we have 4 products. The first is a gas that's used in fire extinguishers to smother fire. Okay, and this one you'll know it's also what we exhale. Carbon dioxide, that's correct. And it's a gas. This one many of you will know as well. The reason why this gas is dangerous is that it prevents red blood cells from carrying oxygen to different parts of your body. Many of you will have a detector for this in your home. Yes?
Carbon monoxide?
Yeah, carbon monoxide. It too is a gas. Then, a fine black solid powder called soot. This is nothing other than, what do you think? Yeah, carbon, yeah. And it's a solid powder, so this one's a solid. And a gas that condenses at 100 degrees Celsius. Water. And it's in its gas form. Okay? So you can see that when we have an orange flame, whenever things are burning with incomplete combustion, you know, we've got carbon dioxide that's produced, carbon monoxide, we've got lots of soot and solid carbon, and we've also got water vapor. When we go to a blue flame, which is complete combustion, which means that there's enough oxygen, again, it's natural gas that's burning with oxygen, but lots of it, we get complete combustion. And there's only two products of complete combustion. The first is carbon dioxide. And the second is water. So we can see that there's two products here that we've managed to get rid of by just using more oxygen. Okay, we've managed to get rid of the carbon monoxide and the soot. And that can be advantageous. So here, I'm going to leave you to fill in this chart. The disadvantage of having an orange flame over a blue flame. The first one is that the outside of the glassware needs cleaning. That's because orange flame produces soot. Okay, and so the description of this is that we need to clean all of our glassware because we have this black powder all over everything. You can kind of brainstorm amongst each other to come up with another two disadvantages. I think most of us could agree that this one right here might be a major disadvantage. Okay, and then there's probably a couple others that you can think of as well. All right, so I'm going to let you go and do that now, and that is the end of our lesson.